How is everyone? Sorry, just getting a little snack here. Gonna make another attempt at another video on the UnStuck the NFG 2024. I've tried a couple of times already, and I've got last one was 43 minutes long, 40 minutes longer than I wanted it to be. I'm still getting used to the software and cameras and putting myself on them and all the light that doesn't make me look all pasty. But we're gonna see what we can do. So the UnStuck, my truck's just out of camera view here, is officially, it's up on the website. You can order it in the store, online store, shipped directly to your house. Unfortunately, you have to build it. You don't want me building your trucks, and that's part of the fun of it, right? Probably not, but want to go over what comes in the kit, what you're going to get in the kit, what belongs in the kit, give you some views on how my truck is built, so that you know where all 6 pieces go. I mean, there's roughly 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 13 pieces, so it's kind of self-explanatory. I know how the internet is these days. Some people need their hands held, so I'm your guy for that. Pretty much in the kit, you're going to get 2 carbon fiber side plates. You're going to get the 2 carbon fiber rear shock arms. All the carbon fiber is 2.5 millimeter. I know I'm talking fast. I'm going to try to slow this down. It's 2.5 millimeter. I used to do chassis in 2 mil and 1.5 mil because it was like, oh, how light can you go? Let's play the featherlight game. I'm a featherlight driver. I like 4 pounds or less. 4 and a quarter, 4.2. However, I don't know. My scale says 4.2, so 4.2. That's about as heavy as I've been in the last few years of when I fade out and come back. I don't know how. Kind of retire, don't retire, but that's always been a happy weight for me. Anything less than that, it kind of became hard. It became harder to drive the truck because when you're so light, you have the weight in the correct areas. Your bias is great. You're set up, but it's too light on the corners, and it doesn't transfer. So getting that balance of weight transfer versus bias, it's hard, and that was always a battle for me. So anything lighter than 4 pounds, I always ended up going heavier, back up to a little over 4, and it settled it right down. So with that in mind, all these chassis are going to be 2.5 mil. I'm not going to play that featherlight game. Plus, it's a bitch for inventory on material for me because now I'm cutting chassis and I'm packing kits, and chassis are separate, and I've got 11 2.5 millimeters, and then I got 3 2 mils, and I'm like cutting 2 mil, and then all of a sudden I'm selling. It's just a nightmare. Like I said, I am from start to finish. I am from concept all the way to packaging it and putting the label on it to ship it to your door. That's just me. So I've got no team of 7-year-olds working for me in the back room doing all this. Plus I got a 50-hour-a-week normal job and a girlfriend that I'd like to keep for the rest of my life, however long that is. And more importantly, my daughter, who's going to college this year. Holy fuck. But back on subject. So side plates, of course, carbon fiber, 2.5 millimeter. I cut carbon, so they're going to be made in carbon. You're going to get 3D printed pieces with it. All the 3D printed that's coming with it is going to be in black PETG. I own 3 functional FDM printers, Creality S1s, that I've had for quite a few years now and been 3D printing, so I'm about 95% on the pro level of 3D printing. all the parts are. If you've gotten any of my kits before, you've seen my 3D printed stuff that comes in the kit. I may sound like I'm joking around, which I am. I do take time in my 3D printed. I'm actually watching the printer right now print some fan mounts for touring cars. I'm trying out a new carbon fiber polycarbonate nylon material. It's being a little bit of a... It's not participating well on the first layer, but we're dialing that in. So, alright, let me show you the truck. So, 2.5 mil side plates, of course, because that's the chassis. Now, anything you see on my truck that is in white is 3D printed. The only thing that's not going to come in a kit is these shock bells. I've touched on those on the past video, and the shock spring bottoms. Get some light in there. Here, we'll do that one. Those two pieces will not come with the kit. Wheels obviously don't come, so you can see the green 3D printed I did there. The shock bells, for those who didn't watch the entire video, shame on you, but they only fit SCX shock bodies. They work for the SCX, Deluxe, DravTech, RC Bros springs, mini T springs, but they only fit the SCX body. I do have them on the Shapeways store. If you run SCX bodies on your scalers, on your comp rigs, it'd be my guess. The shock bottoms, the spring collars, stoppers, whatever you want to call them, everybody's got their own name. They are the ones with the slots in them so that you can easily remove them without taking the eyelet off the bottom. I am one that changes springs. I am one that tunes. I mean, honestly, right now the truck is set up on the springs that I like. Maybe there's another spring that comes out for some of these other low-C minis, and it's like rating in between something, so I'll try them. I take one screw out, pull the bottom off, I throw the spring on, set my preload / ride height, and take off from there. So those are available on Shapeways as well. They come, all four, one order. You can get them in any color you want. They are, that's the important part. They are the same as Deluxe's spring bottoms. So if you have their DravTech shocks, their big bore shocks, and you want to, get these, they will fit. They are not measurement for measurement the same, but they are they'll fit. So where was I? So all the 3D printed that's up here in white on the chassis is going to come. It's black, like I said, it's PEG. The skid is, I'm not going to go into specifics. Many walls and much infill. PETG printed. I'll touch more on that stuff later, but all of the printed parts are on Shapeways. You can get them whatever colors you want. From me, they're only going to come in black. I'm not, it's too much to play around with colors and orders, and so you'll get these back here on the shock collar. Shock arms are 2.5 mil thick. They are needed. You could use a 2.5 mil shim. I don't recommend it because there's too much. These actually take up, add extra support onto these ears. Not that it may make it sound like they need it. They don't. It's just extra. But the fronts are definitely needed. These are 5 millimeters each. This back hole here is a through hole for the braces that come with the chassis. They're a 5mm OD brace, and they're right up against the actual sides. They're not pinched in between the printed parts. The reason I do that is because the rear is the same way through the 2.5mm spacers, and the front is, the chassis is physically stable. That's locked. Between the skid and those, that's locked together. I feel if I put them into the print, people start cranking down on them. They're going to start squishing or warping it or twisting it, and then the chassis just gets all banged up, and they're like, you know, the UnStuck sucks, and it's really not the chassis' fault, it's the driver. The front, for the shocks though, is needed for shock mounting. You could use nuts if you wanted to. You take a fall, you're going to snap the chassis. The body mounts, these printed body mount holders, for whatever post you want to use, need them so that they actually slide. You can kind of see the slot. So that cross brace will slide inside this body mount. So this body mount will never change. Your body will always mount the same way no matter where you put your shocks, front or rear. They both do the same thing. But that is pinched in between the spacer. And same as the rear. The rear cross brace is just on the carbon itself, and that's to give it the extra support. You have to run those. Obviously, you have to run these, but you have to run these posts. Don't put a bolt and a nut through it. You're going to snap the carbon, and it's going to be your own fault. The body mount holders, there is a screw hole for each. This one you kind of can't see because it's a little black dot. They are just the regular 3mm screw. You could go 3x6, it'll stick up a little bit, 3x5. Really all you want to do is just thread it in and snug it up against this cross brace. A little information, a little inside builder tip, whatever you want to call it. When you do that, center these mounts, and then the posts will be centered on your body. Once you center it, snug that screw down and leave a mark on that cross brace. Take it back apart and you'll see where it's marked. I recommend just taking a Dremel with either a drum or a disc on it, and just Dremel a little flat spot so that screw sits on it and can't move side to side. You know, this won't shift. Don't drill through them. They're only 5mm. You won't have enough strength. You'll actually weaken these and you'll break them. So just put a little Dremel notch where the screw left its mark, and then you know that if you ever have to take this apart, you can just kind of eyeball up where it goes and set that screw into that same spot, and it's right back where it was. You don't have to worry about measuring. It's kind of an inside trick to make things easier. Touch on the skid. So the skid is, like I said, 3D printed, PET G. You can get different colors at Shapeways. The ones that come in the kit, sorry I got distracted. The ones that come in the kit, I recommend for this truck, if you're running portals, to run the deluxe portal transmission. I'm terrible with gearing. I don't really understand gearing in all transparency, disclaimer, whatever you want to call it. I'm fucking oblivious to that. But I know the portal transmission is what you use on portal axles, and the Deluxe guys have done a great job on figuring that out. So to get the gearing that you need for wheel speed. We need wheel speed. I know we're going a mile an hour but you still need wheel speed. You need some snot behind that thing. So back up to all the other Portal trucks that I built. The original back in 2018, and then the Capra versions that I did once the Capra came out. I always fought gearing. Like I said, I'm a dumbass when it comes to gearing. So I tried Hamburg, I tried Cheeseburg, I tried building my own. I tried working with a couple of other vendors to kind of figure out gearing and learn it, and I'm stupid on that area. So wheel speed was always something that I didn't have enough of. I couldn't bump rear ends, I couldn't bounce up stuff, I couldn't shoot, you know, gaps and whatnot. Deluxe did a terrific job with figuring out the gearing on this. I'm not trying to, I mean, I'm not in their pocket. They're not, you're going to hear their name for other items on this truck and recommendations. I'm not in their pocket. The original Deluxe brought us some great ideas. We got lucky that when Eric got out, he didn't just close shop and walk away. He thought of the community and offered to sell the business, and we got lucky with Jason and the guys picking it up and actually running with it and bringing us Portal transmissions and all the other products that they bring us. So I'm a strong supporter of theirs for a lot of that reason. I'm gonna extend on that and say, now if you're running OG straight axles, I'll call them OG straight axles, but if you're running straight axles, I recommend the NOD transmission. That is more of your traditional gearing, whereas the Portal transmission is either higher gear or lower gear. Like I said, I'm fucking clueless. But the bolt patterns are different between the two transmissions. I confirmed that before, you know, while I was building this up. So in the kit, like I said, you're going to get a skid that is designed for the Portal transmission because I have it. I obviously mounted it. I tweaked it and everything, and it fits. On Shapeways, there is a skid for the NOD transmission, but I don't have the bolt pattern, so you'll have to drill them yourself. I feel safe saying that because Shapeways is a more solid part, being SLA printed in their nylon, than what you're going to get from any one of us that 3D print, unless you do 100% infill, and then it's going to take you like 9 days to print a skid plate. And you're still going to get a squish out of the screws. But you can use the NOD, you can get the blank skid plate on it, and sorry, I got messages flying up at me here. If you are using a China copy, when I say China copy, I'm talking the Alibaba, AliExpress, Amazon garbage that people post up to, like, what are they, like $20 or something? I don't know, some 4-year-old assembled them. If you're using any of those transmissions, or any of the transmissions that are bouncing around in the groups that guys are ripping off from actual people, you're on your own. As far as the most I will go and have gone is I put a blank skid on Shapeways that you can buy. You're going to be responsible for shimming it up. You're going to be responsible for drilling your own holes. I know nothing about any of these Chinese rip-offs. I will not know anything about them, nor will I design anything to adapt to them. The guys that are copying transmissions and just changing them cosmetically, again, you want to run theirs, I understand. Not everybody's made of money. Not everybody has money. but apparently everybody wants to be in the hobby that costs money. So you guys can figure it out. Drill your own holes. You want to support the copiers. Believe me, I've been in business for 10 years. In the hobby for 40, they come and go. And when they go, they just fucking disappear. So, that said, Deluxe Portal transmission fits the stock skid. That's the one I recommend you using on the portals. If you use the straight axle, I recommend the NOD transmission. That skid is available through Shapeways. If you want to use like an OG axial transmission, it can be used. You get the blank skid out of Shapeways. It's going to take a little bit of finesse, in all honesty, to get that transmission in this chassis, because we've gone so much narrower, because our transmissions have gotten so much smaller. The associated element training, I do have one of those, and something I was building years ago. It definitely won't fit. That thing is a monster with the over-under zip. But that's my rant on the skid. Some of the things that changed on this versus the UnStuck 3G. The Gen 2 that I came out with, which was the second version of this along the years, changed some things from the first version, obviously, and the 3G, the third version, was pretty much a complete redesign. That was notes and math taken from starting to play with the portals and the Capras. This one, the NFG 2024, is notes from the portals, notes from the Capras, notes from everything that I did on the 3G, and it was actually, this chassis was actually the next version due out before I switched the company to just primarily racing. So this has been sitting, and I went back on my research, my notes, and ideas, memories, thoughts, wants, needs, and everything's still checked out to what I believe as far as geometry goes. So with this version, actually overall it is a smaller chassis. It's a little bit shorter than the 3G. The triangulation on the lower skid, if you've owned or seen any of our other chassis, we were all over the place on link triangulation. Not a bad thing. We learned a lot, and it just, I never found that balance that I was always looking for. And rear axle steer, axle sway, whatever you want to call it, bothers the hell out of me. It's just, I always want to just get rid of it, but I never want to stiffen up the articulation or the flow of an axle. This one, I was playing with some ideas on my rigs before I got out, and I found some things that I actually liked on just how it all worked together. So that's what I put into this skid. The rear links have less triangulation than the front links. This is the front of the truck, and this is the rear. So you can see the triangulation is slightly more in the front. It's nothing drastic. It's not like the LCC triangulation, and it's not straight like the old Gatekeepers used to be. But I found with this setup, I have very little rear axle sway, rear steer. And what I mean by steer is when I go up on something and I move the, I articulate the axle, it doesn't, I think you can kind of see it. It doesn't steer. So when I articulate up on something, this side comes up and it doesn't shorten my wheelbase. That always bugged the hell out of me because we're allowed 12.5 inches. I want to use all 12.5 inches, whether it's, if I want to stay 12.5 front to rear, whether I'm compressed or I'm unsuspended flying through the air, and that 12.5, depending on my track width, then I can start playing with my corner distance. So even though you're 12.5 here, you could be 13 diagonally. But when you kick in your rear steer, now you're 11. So, or rear sway, whatever. I'm going to keep calling it rear steer because the axle steering. The front being a little less, yeah, it introduces a little bit more rear axle, or a little bit more axle sway than the rear has, but it's less noticeable because you're driving the truck from that axle, you're steering from that axle, you're putting that front up at its highest point onto something diagonally. I'm going into how I look at things here. I'm going up on something, and diagonally I'm 13 inches, let's call it 13, and then I can turn and I start articulating, and I can kind of manipulate how the truck is. I don't know how to say it. I'm just gonna end it there because I know the keyboard engineers or the internet engineers are gonna get on me. I'm trying to explain things, which is fine. I mean, comments, all of them are welcome. But it gives me, I feel it leaves the rear in control of itself, and the rear isn't telling the front what it's going to do. I don't like that. That's not how I've always driven off the nose of the truck, and I've used the front to tell the rear, this is what you're going to do, like it. I've had the truck built for a while. I know like I said, I've kind of joked with people about like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. I've had the truck for a while. It's been a few months. I've gotten out and I've practiced with it. I've kept it low key. I got I own like 15 packs, so I probably got about 45 packs through this truck. And every time I run it, it still surprises me, impresses me, shocks me. It has done everything that I remembered I wanted to do. Back to the web store. Try to get back on track here. I'm at I got 28 minutes of your life, and then I still got some fancy edits to do. So on the site, on the web store, there is a big write-up in the product catalog. I suggest reading it all. There's a lot of information in that, with changes, recommendations, shocks. Like I said several times, I run SCX. It's just it's old school habit. I like them. I don't like the big bores. I don't like my hang up on big bores versus SCX. I don't like the way big bores react. I feel they're a slower shock than what I prefer. Like I said, it's all preference. Those deluxe DravTech big bores, even if you got old school Traxxas 2662s, I think it's 2662s, run them. They all work. Honestly, they're all the same shock. I recommend nothing longer than a 90 millimeter. I can help and support SCX shocks, deluxe DravTechs, Traxxas, like I said, whatever you want for those. I'm gonna group them all together under big bore. I support any of those shocks. If you want to run any of the rock lizards, lot lizards, I don't know, whatever they're called that everybody favors over on the LCG page, nothing over 90 millimeter. That's the best I can tell you. I don't know anything about those. I just don't, and I'm not going to. But nothing over 90 if you want to play around. I mean, honestly, an 80 millimeter shock. If I could find a nice 80 millimeter that worked well, and I could get the spring rates that I like for it, I'd run an 80 millimeter. 80 millimeter is not gonna hurt you, but nothing less than an 80 mil. So nothing over 90, nothing less than 80. When mounting the rear shocks, the fronts, with this change in design, go back to the skid real quick. Other changes that we made with compared the 3G to the NFG here, skid. So I moved the skid slightly forward to give some more front weight bias. You can also obtain front weight bias by actually lengthening your front end. It's not lengthening your rear end and putting it farther behind you. It's lengthening your front end so it creates more of a pendulum effect, because the bulk of our weight is, is up on the front axle. So the further you get it out, the more it's going to pull down on everything else. It's going to change your bias location, your bias point. You know, like mine is, if I can do skinny finger, this is not the right way to do it, but mine is about in front, just in front of the bulk, the link ends. But moving the skid slightly forward, however many millimeters, I forgot, helped the weight bias, and it actually let us shorten the skid. Shortening the skid helped me get the angle that I prefer. I think works well. It's nothing drastic. It's not like these scalers that you see, or some of these shaft rigs that are not 2.2S legal, but people don't comp, so they run them. There's so much wrong when you start exaggerating your skid angle like that, that it baffles me and makes me laugh on. There's so much geometry is just throw it out the window. You wanna, apparently you just want to clear the biggest obstacle and throw tuning and geometry out the window in these rigs. And I know everybody's got, you know, their theories, but just keep throwing brass on the front end, and I'm gonna stand my skid straight up so I can crawl over the biggest rock, and then I can't side hill or, you know, drop off of anything without ending up on my roof. But sorry, it's a little rant. So doing that kept everything together, proportionate to each other, better weight bias, and like I touched earlier, lightweight rigs. So the bias that I just showed you, this rig ready to run with a body on it is 3.86 pounds. And like I said earlier, I've always had trouble with less than a 4-pound rig. And all the times that I've been out with this, all I'm running on the front is Deluxe's portal covers and loaded dice hangers. I don't have any tungsten inside these slugs. I don't have any weight inside of them. The axles don't even have, there's no aluminum or brass tubes in these axles. 3.86 pounds. Drop it on a course and run 10 gates. The front just takes up any terrain that is in front of it. It's great, and I attribute that to what I did with the skid plate, and also link geometry. The upper links play a role into it too, because you know, a lot goes together when you're looking at that light of a rig. Like I said, weight transfer, corner to corner. You need that weight to get to that opposite corner quick. And everything just together works well. I forgot where I was just a moment ago. So on the site, did that, shocks, the rear shocks. So the rear shock's arms are adjustable, up and down. One change that I made from the 3G to the NFG is this screw here holds the arm and is the adjustment screw. The other hole that was here, it was a drastic change between those two holes. So I tightened those holes up, but I left the arms the same. These are actually the same arms as a 3G. But tightening these holes up, I found that I was able to actually make like a half hole adjustment, which just changes. You raise and lower this arm, which affects your skid height, because it does raise or jack or lower the skid because it changes the chassis angle, but it changes the shock angles. So it's like if you need a little bit more shock in the back, you would stand them up one hole, but then that's too much for you. Well, now you can just kind of drop one hole and it's like a half of, it's everything kind of works in between. It opened up the tuning window with smaller amounts of changes available to be made. I'm coming up on time. I was trying to keep it under 43, but I'm at 36. So links are on the site. You can, they're listed, the front and rears, uppers and lowers. They're eye-to-eye measurements. I don't do links. I won't make links. I cheat. I go to Vanquish and I find links that are close to what I need. Pretty much anything I run they've been within a couple millimeters of what I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. Uppers, I run 1/8 inch and I have to thread the ends myself. It's a pain in the ass. I don't know how people are really doing it, but I've never invested the time to learn because I don't make them. There's a lot tied up in making links I don't think people realize. So if you got link suppliers that you've used before, you can give them these measurements. They are eye to eye. I give preferences and recommendations on bends. The rear, this is about 50 millimeters from the eye to the bend, and it's roughly 20 to 30 degree bend. The front, you can bend if you want. Some guys prefer not to. Do not go over 10 degrees on a front bend. I don't recommend it because you're going to run into interference with the motors, whether you run 540s or you run the like puller motors or the broods that are skinnier cans. You're going to run into problems with those for clearance. The upper links, there's also recommendations on that. The fronts, you're kind of locked into running them straight on the outside of the axle ears. If you're looking for spacers to put in between those top link ears, 7-8 millimeter spacers work. I have 8 millimeters coming in. They'll be on the site in the rock crawler section. It helps stiffen it up, and they're actually threaded, so once you get them into the axle ear on the top, you can thread right into them. You don't need to put a nut on it and crank them down. The rear, because of the lesser triangulation, I recommend triangulating the rear. You can run them to the top. It's going to stiffen the rear end up a little bit. It's going to slow the flow of the rear end down. I don't like that effect, so I recommend some triangulation. You can kind of see how I have these bent. These are actually old ones off one of my XR10s, but they just work. I do recommend a small link riser for this chassis. You're gonna get more aggression out of the truck on climbs and side hills, making it more stable and making the front end eat that terrain much better. You don't need anything drastic on the rear. I think at the least amount of triangulation you could use, I think it was Super Shafty makes a riser that is just above axle height and it moves them in slightly, so there is some triangulation. That one will work. I don't know whose this is, if you guys can see it. I don't know whose mount this is. Honestly, it came on the truck when I bought what I bought to get these axles. I can tell you from the link screw to the axle mounting screw is roughly 15 millimeters, about 14 and a half, 15 mil. It's perfect for me. I've got to search Shapeways. I want to get a couple more just for spares, but it's perfect. So nothing. I've seen these fucking things that point up higher than the chassis, and you know, all these. If you think you need that much of an incline on your rear link riser, the best thing I can say is start watching some one-to-one videos on I think it's Busted Knuckle or something, and learn how setting these things. You know, one-to-one translates into what we're doing, so you don't need this telephone pole coming up and, you know, angles that just bury it into the ground. Sorry, I got distracted on that again. Other than that, front axle plates. Some of you have seen me mention what I was using. There are options out there. I made a carbon fiber one that put the servo up on top, the battery servo here, battery here. Punks RC made the same thing after I discontinued them. Servo here, battery here, and then you got your 3D printed versions that are out there. My recommendation: stay away from the 3D printed pieces. Sorry if I offend any of you printers, but there's nothing worse than being out at a comp and having your front end just shatter on you. You take a wrong fall the wrong way, or they don't use the correct material and it warps or cracks or splits a layer on you, and you're fucked. So those are some carbon fiber plate options. The way I have my servo mounted right now, this is based off of the deluxe version. So deluxe, the servo drops down, runs lower along the parallel with the drive shaft, and has a 3D printed bucket for your batteries. I use the concept, I use the idea, but I couldn't use the mount for me because I don't like running 450 batteries. I run 650s. It's just a preference. 450s to me, I just like knowing I got a little bit left in the sack if I need it, or you know, to yank on it during the run. It's just a preference. So with that, I took and modified that design to where now my battery sits on top. I know, center of gravity, oh my lord, what am I gonna do? You raised it. And I mount my electronics on the bottom. Oh, there's a servo. This is my Sidewinder and my BEC shrink wrapped together. This Sidewinder is honestly about 14 years old. It's still running the software that lets you run 4S, so until it blows up, I'm keeping her. But I only run 3S with the shameless plug portal transmission, Deluxe's version. I don't need 4S to make up for it. I might go to it, but I don't have any concerns when mounting my electronics here. Like I said, I've run this truck quite a bit, and minimal scratches. It's not much at all. Like I said, I don't have any concerns with it. So electronics are mounted underneath. The only thing you want to be aware of is where your wires come up. Everything is fed through the back by the motor. I still have room, and the servo wire is fed up through the top up here to keep it away from the drive shaft yoke. And I still have, you know, full lock left to right with clearance. So there you go. But I think that's it. So if the Deluxe mount works for you, I recommend using that. If you like I said, I couldn't run it because my batteries won't fit in it. These are 500s, the GeForce 500s. They do fit in it, but they're low C, and then they're other ones, they're 70C ones. I think it's 70. They're slightly wider. They don't fit in there for me. Even if I could get a battery to fit in there, then it loses my real estate to put my electronics, because now I got no room underneath. It was kind of not much was in my favor for my personal preference. So that's why I modded them out. I am going to have it available in the store. If I wasn't trying to make the like what 7th or 8th attempt at this video, then I'd be cutting them. I'm going to do that once I get done filming this. So I will have my own version of that plate. The battery just mounts with an O-ring. They'll come with 2 O-rings with them. It just, battery slides right underneath. I've used that method for fucking 15 years now on all the rigs that I've had. So receiver, it's decased. It's just double-sided tape to the inside of the frame rail there, and wires are up and away from everything. It's like 4 grams, so you know, all that weight I put up top with the battery I saved, because it kept the electronics low and the receiver's light up top. So I think that's about it. Link lengths are on the site. The link lengths eye-to-eye measurements will put you at 12.38 wheelbase. I'll be honest with that. So I always run around 12 3/8. Gives me a little bit of wiggle room. I can kind of play with my axles a little bit, my caster and my rear. I don't know how to describe it, but if you know portals, you know there's a little trick with wheelbases. If you do it right, I'll use that word loosely, you can actually set up a portal so that when you compress it, when you go through tech, you got 12.5 inches. That's it. Whether the truck is in the air and the axles are floating, or they squish it all the way down or roll it over. I think they flip it upside down nowadays, which is a more accurate way. You got 12.5 inches max. That's it. Well, with a portal, if you set things up correctly, your rear axle will actually, the portal will actually turn on compression and upstroke. So you can float the line where it's like 12 3/8, squish it, you're like 12.5, and then when it rolls back in, it'll be like 12 3/8, and then when you squish it, it'll actually extend its way out. You can float around with that portal a little bit, so that throughout that whole suspension travel, it stays at 12.5 inches, which is very beneficial. Once you learn how to do that, and it's amazing how the rear ends work. Link lengths, I will say, when you look at my numbers, yes. The rear links, yes. The lower is the same measurement as the upper, eye to eye. Some may be like, well, that's not right, or how's that possible, or what about that cardboard diagram video that Facebook advertises for some online college? I don't know what to say to that. High school education, public schools, I don't know. It works. It works. So when you look at it and you're like, hey, that's not right, or if your link builders come back to you and be like, hey, that's not possible, or it's going to cause you problems, just tell them to do the job. It works. There's a reason for it, and it works. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about all I can really touch on it. Thank you again for watching. Thank you again for ordering and buying all the UnStucks. I'm excited to see them going out the door again. I'm excited to be back and actually running a rig. I will eventually be back on the pro rig also. Honestly, it's not as far along as this one was at this point. It's axles are over there. I need to clean them out. I got aluminum screw hardware. That's really about it. I'm still hung up on chassis. I do have a pro chassis designed. I don't know if I want to get into making pro chassis. It's nothing against the market on it. I don't really have the time. I may go back with the Dominator. I ran that for quite a long time. I had quite a lot of success with it. Chris is a great guy. The team has got some incredible drivers, and everybody is always, I've always thought of them as one of the top-notch teams as far as communication, their demeanor at comps and whatnot. They don't look at other chassis and be like, oh, that's theirs. You know, they're right there to help anyone out. Doesn't matter what chassis you're running. And the Dominator, it fucking works. Obviously, it works. So I might go that route. I'm unsure. To be all honest, I'm not even at that point yet. If I don't, it's nothing against them. I might just do it just out of usability because I know setting those up. The other idea I'm tossing honestly is I'm just gonna grab an UnStuck NFG 2024 and throw pro axles underneath it and run a body on it. I did that for years with the Chump RT, and so I might just do that, but it's still up in the air. Outside of that, I don't really have many other things to say. Thank you again for watching. I'm at 52 minutes, so I'm still under my last one. Make sure you watch that other one till the end. There's cookies at the end. There's gifts at the end. There's surprises at the end. There's a lot of no, there's not. But just watch it all the way. Comments and questions you can post. I gotta pick up. Come on. You want a little camera time? All right. Comments and questions, you can post them here to YouTube where this is posted. You can post them on Facebook. Honestly, Facebook is much more. Let me spin you. Sorry. Seen much more. My phone's constantly on me. YouTube, I don't go back much. But I'll get notifications. I'll try to respond. If you got any questions or comments or concerns that you want to reach out directly to me, honestly, hit me up on Krazed's Messenger. You can find me on there. Or email, but I'm more sensitive to the Messenger because I have it on me all day long. Like I said, I'm happy to be back. I'm excited to have another rig, and I'm excited and happy that it works so damn well. But it's not a flop trying to get back out of the gate with this stuff. Yeah, hopefully the next video I bring you is some New England weather that's going to agree with me, and I can take some footage of this actually running. I have an old comp site that we used to comp at many years ago, actually close to me. I got lucky again. I lost 7 falls in Middletown, but I got Southbury Falls 10 minutes up the road from me. It was a challenge back in the day before rigs are what they are now. Now it's kind of, a walk in the park, and I got to make it as difficult as I can. But it's a great place to lay down some practice. Other than that, thanks again. Order your UnStuck, NFG 2024. You can make your own interpretation of what the name means, but I'll leave that one alone for now. All right. I guess peace out, bitches.